Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is indeed Avrum Rosensweig, and I am delighted to be here with you. I'd like to introduce my guest, Richard Walter. How are you today, Richard?
I'm well, thank you. What about yourself, Avrum?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. Today on the show, I'm thrilled to welcome Richard Walter, a legendary screenwriting teacher and author, to talk about his fierce, funny, and wildly timely new novel, Deadpan. Deadpan, published by Heresy Press, is a sharp satire about a deadly serious subject, anti-Semitism, and the everyday bigotry hiding in plain sight. Richard began writing it in the 1970s, but its relevance today is almost eerie. The book was sparked half a century ago as Richard sat around a fire in Seattle thinking about Kafka's Metamorphosis. He wondered, well, if Kafka's man could wake up as an insect, what else might someone wake up as? Good question. His answer, an anti-Semite who suddenly finds himself inside the life of a Jewish comedian, forced to live a day feeling what Jews feel. For decades, the publishing world rejected Deadpan as too controversial. 50 agents passed, even his own former agent wouldn't even touch it. But during the pandemic, the book found new life and a brave publisher in Heresy Press. The novel rocketed through the 1970s oil crisis across West Virginia, Las Vegas, Washington, Tehran, and the Sinai, mixing satire, politics, and a cast that somehow includes Mel Brooks, Sarah Palin, and the Shah of Iran. It's outrageous, poignant, and full of Richard's Ashkenazi soul. Beneath the humor is a warning. Benign, casual bigotry we ignore can turn lethal very quickly. And Richard wants us to see that clearly and remember our shared humanity. Today, we talk about the 50-year journey of Deadpan, the courage to write dangerously, and why satire still matters. So once again, Richard, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. How much of a Jew are you?
Well, I am not observant of most rituals. If you have children, as I do, you have to have Hanukkah, or they'll report you to childhood services, family services. And yes, we have a Seder with a Haggadah. Though it's a little bit of a hurry up Haggadah. I don't go to temple. If I went to temple, it would be so reformed that it would close for the for Yom Kippur. But I am Jewish. There is nobody on this planet who is more Jewish than I am. There are people as Jewish as I, yes, but not more so. And I'm talking about my culture, my spirit, my soul, my affect. The way I engage the world is in a way that I regard as powerfully Jewish, and I think it's fine if people want to be more formal and engage in all of the very, very rigid observations. Though there are some aspects that do trouble me. Tribalism, the notion that I think in Orthodoxy there is a prejudice against women if they can't hold clerical rank. That's not certainly Judaism doesn't have a monopoly on that. And especially, I think it's important not to just keep to yourself and your own kind, but to meet people who are different from you and enjoy the richness, the diversity that is here on the planet that God gave us is not some mistake that she made, but testimony to her greater glory.
So, I come from an Orthodox background. My father was an Orthodox rabbi, and he was a small C conservative. He wore the blue stripe pin suits and he was born in 1928. Excuse me, so highly traditional. I went to yeshiva for 6 years, 5 years in Toronto, 1 year in Jerusalem. So I understand that world very, very well. And around 20 years old, I kind of discounted it, and I pursued Tikkun Olam, which is repairing the world more so. I opened a humanitarian organization, helping abroad, Zimbabwe, Guyana, and helping the homeless in Toronto and so on. But my question to you is, when you say the way that you manage the world, the way that you see the world, the way your character does in the book, is very, very, how would you explain that to an Orthodox Jew who puts on tefillin every day? You know what I mean? On Shabbat, he doesn't go out.
Well, it's funny. I was at the doctor. When you get old, one of the difference between being old and being young is when you're young, you go to the doctor, and when you're old, you go to the doctors.
Yeah, right.
The other difference is that when you're young, you get sick and then you recover.
Yes.
So some doctor said to me recently, I forget which specialist this was, not to worry about some particular thing. And I said, I'm a Jew. It's my habit to worry. I do really believe that it's wise, especially I've been in the entertainment business my whole life, and especially in so competitive and chancy and iffy and undependable the business is. I think it's really useful to always expect the worst. And in this way, you can guarantee that all of your surprises will be pleasant ones. And then I also believe that we were talking a little before we went on the air, so to speak, about the expectations that people have, that how many successful people we've crossed paths with are not really satisfied with what they've done. I think everybody is a little surprised. I like to say behind every successful man there is a surprised woman. I heard two women on an elevator. One was saying to the other, "But if they could put a man on the moon, why can't they put them all there?"
Right.
The fact is, though, that the people I know who are really pleased with what they've done in their lives are also surprised by what they've done. Jewish kid like me from New York. The thing to me was a doctor. And there's nothing more planning, that requires more planning. You go to pre-med, and if it's not a formal pre-med in your undergraduate school, you take biology and chemistry and so on, and then medicine, this and that. And you end up having, achieving your goal. And I know a lot of doctors, and many of them are pleased with their careers, but many of them are not. This one wishes he was an anthropologist. We would get them in, we would admit them changing careers into our program at UCLA in writing. This one wishes he was an oceanographer, and they all seem to want to be writers, I think you want to stay open to the surprises. I can say I am a trained actor, and I'm a very, very experienced public speaker. So I can say things convincingly, even if I don't believe them. And I'm going to do that right now. Remember, I don't believe what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it so persuasively, and it makes such great sense that even though I just told you that's not true, you're going to nod and say, yeah. And here it is. If you want to succeed at something really, really competitive, and there's nothing more competitive than Hollywood writing for the screen, being in the movies one way or another, you've got to focus. You can't be given over to distractions. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes.
It's funk.
Yes.
The people that I know, I think I've had a lot of experience with this. My own experience all by itself will teach you this, but it's not all by itself. It's leveraged by the experience I've had working with so many other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other writers, successful professionals, and every single one of them is surprised by what they're doing. Wasn't really planning to do that. When I meet a writer, a writer will tell me that he's working on something, um, and he's really excited about it. It's going so well, everything's just falling into place. I always say the same thing because I'm a polite person. I want to be courteous. I say, "Wow, that's great. Glad to hear that. Congratulations. Good luck with that." That's what I say. And when I think to myself of something else, what I think is just one word, and here it is: amateur. Real professionals are always wondering. I've never looked at any of my work, and I have written a lot. I've written many screenplays for the studios and the television networks, and I have 6 published books and a few unpublished books too. And I've never ever looked at any of the stuff that I've done without wondering, oh, I should have changed this, should have done that, this shouldn't have had that in it, should have had this in it, and so on. So I think the truest thing said in the last century was courtesy of a little musical ensemble called the Rolling Stones, can't get no satisfaction. Stop trying to be satisfied. I have a friend who's a Buddhist. She's actually a Jewish woman who has studied Buddhism. She calls herself a Judist. And Buddhists will tell you the enemy of serenity is desire. If you want something, you got to stop wanting. If you think about it, the humblest Buddhist priest who just walks through the streets with a tattered robe and asks people for handouts for dinner, for sustenance, for food, a meal. That priest is as wealthy as Elon Musk,
yes,
to the extent that both of those people can buy whatever they want. The priest is because he doesn't want anything, So there's power in giving up that sort of thing. When you get to be old, and I am older, you realize that you don't really know what's going on while it's going on, but only when you look back. So get out of your own way. That's what I'm always telling writers is stop trying so hard. You'll never succeed at anything if you try.
But Richard, with all of that, would you say you're an excellent writer?
Wow. The short answer is yeah. I have come around to respect what I do, even though I look, I am all tweaking and so on. I have had tremendous success with some of my books. My nonfiction books, I have 3 on screenwriting. They're from Penguin Random House, the Plume imprint. Their trade paper nonfiction. There's a hugely successful Mandarin edition. It's something like 1,000 copies a month in China from the Shanghai publisher. I've just closed a deal with a Russian publisher. They're going to publish a Russian translation of the book. These books have been in print for 35 years plus. They've sold over 100,000 copies. That's unusual. That sounds like a big success, and everybody nods and thinks it is. But I'm just not so sure. I'm never really sure about it. And I think that not being sure, not getting it, is a good thing. There was a Buddhist master who was asked by one of his students, I can't get this enlightenment thing. I just don't get it. And the master said, I don't get it is an enlightenment.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
I'll tell you one more thing. My sister and I grew up around very successful people. My dad was a very successful musician, and my sister was a movie star. She's best known as Jessica Walter was best known as Lucille Bluth. Her comedy career, her later career in the legendary series Arrested Development.
Yes.
And she just never really got it that she was a movie star. I met her once. She said, "All these people." Oh, it was actually an unemployment insurance. She was picking up her check. You know, the guild wants you to. It's not welfare. You know, it's an insurance policy. They want people, even if they don't need the money, to pick them up. And I remember running into her there, and she said, "Oh, here I am at unemployment." And you know, last night I was on such and such a show, Dr. Welby, MD, and millions of people saw me, and they think I live in the hills with a pool and a maid, and I drive a Mercedes. They should see me here at the unemployment office. I said, but you do live in over the hills, and you do have a Mercedes and a pool. She really didn't get it, and I think not getting it is important. I think that's a really, really useful thing. Always to be striving and to be a little uncomfortable. There's a plague now across the country for comfort. University, somebody feels uncomfortable in a classroom. I regarded it as my mission, my duty as a teacher, to make people uncomfortable, to provoke them, to upset them, to make them think for themselves about issues. I would sometimes embrace issues that I didn't even believe, just to provoke people into thinking for themselves. So forget about comfort. When you hear ugliness and expression, it just tells you that you're living in a free country, and you'll never have to deal with that kind of discomfort in you know, North Korea or Saudi Arabia.
You know, with all this discomfort that you speak of, and then on top of that, your great successes, which I think by any sort of objective measure, you've done well for yourselves. So a pat on the back and a big kiss on your forehead for that. You're welcome. I'm always curious about, where does this sense of self or that confidence that people have enough so to pursue 40 years at UCLA in a senior position? The question really is, what were your parents like? Were they strong New Yorkers who really encouraged you to live your life, to be who you are? Or, you know, Richard, stop that. No, you're not doing this right. What sort of parents were they?
Wow, what a great question. My mother was an immigrant from Russia. She came here as a little girl. My dad was the child of immigrants. I am the grandchild. Everybody I know is either the child or the grandchild of immigrants. My dad fell into the arts. His mother, like every Jewish mother in Brooklyn at that era, had a kid studying violin, and he was able to get into Juilliard, but not on violin. They needed bass players for. They would give a full scholarship to a bass player. An immigrant, you know, family from Brooklyn. That sounded quite tempting, and Dad became a bass player in his original career as a young man. He was the principal under Fritz Reinhardt at Pittsburgh, a very world-class orchestra, the Pittsburgh Symphony. I could actually boast to my friends that my dad played first bass for Pittsburgh. And then he came.
That's great.
He then came to NBC with Toscanini. Toscanini was fleeing Mussolini and the war in Europe in the middle of the 30s. And NBC set up an orchestra. They raided all of the first chairs. And my dad was there at NBC for 15 years with the NBC Symphony Orchestra under Toscanini. Then the Toscanini was elderly. He was almost 90 and retiring. It was the end of the radio era. So they fired the whole orchestra except for my dad, because he was a bass player. And he went out from the NBC Symphony Orchestra with Toscanini. He went to the Tonight Show band in its Steve Allen days. There's just two kinds of music: good music and bad music. That's what I learned at home from my dad. And likewise, I think that that writing is the same way. I just think two genres: good writing and bad writing. Good writing is writing that engages you, that you read a little bit of it and you want to read more. You want to read more of it. I can tell you, if I've read thousands of screenplays, if when a screenplay opens at the beginning of the first page, at the top of the first page, and you read that and you actually want to finish that page, and then you get to the bottom of the page, you have a desire, you actually want to turn the page, not of obligation, but because you're curious to know what happened. It's rare.
Yes.
It's so easy to understand what you have to do to be a good writer. It's just hard to do it. And why is it hard to do it? Because it takes a lot of time. People just won't give it the time. Time is what our lives are made up of, and that's what art wants. It wants our time. We have to give our life to it. But that, I don't mean that to be cynical or brooding. I can't imagine a more wonderful, affirming enterprise to give your life to than creative expression. I mean, imagine you just make up stories and I mean, imagine you're walking down the street and somebody runs up to you, wild-eyed, and says, "Hey, listen, I'm a screenwriter, and I have to tell you this dream that I had last night. I got to tell somebody. Can I tell you?" And instead of running for your life, you're so generous and humane. You say, "Well, all right, tell me your dream."
Yeah.
What if the writer then said to you, "Okay, I'll get started in a moment, but first of all, two things. One, it's going to take a couple of hours,
Yes.
and I need $15 or $18, whatever it costs now." You would figure, crank up the lithium on this guy's drip. And yet that's what every writer is doing. Not only are we asking people to give a piece of their life, the time that it takes to read even just to see a movie, to read a short book like my new novel Deadpan, about 250 pages. I'm a slow reader. It's going to take 15, 20 hours to get through that, maybe 10 hours. We're asking people to not merely to give that time and consideration to us, but to pay money for the privilege. It's pretty crazy.
Correct.
And art is kind of crazy. My dad, I mentioned the bass player. What is that? You're dragging horsehair. That's what the bow is made out of, the tail of a horse. Of course, sheep gut. That's what the strings are made out of. And what somebody said to you, "Why are you doing that?" What if you said to them, "Well, it's because it's going to make a beautiful sound that's so beautiful, people will actually stand in line in the snow or in the heat to hand over money for the privilege of sitting in a chamber where people are doing that." So I'm always telling writers, stop being so sensible. Stop expecting it to go neatly and logically and rationally. It's just not like that.
Richard, why don't you mention your mother?
Why did I mention my mother? My mother.
Why didn't you?
Why don't I'm sorry. Why don't
Yeah,
I?
like I asked you about your parents, and you went straight to your dad.
Yes, my mother was kept house until my sister and I were, pretty much out of the house, and then she became a school teacher. She was managed to have a real career in. She was young enough when she got married that after that all happened, the kids were grown. She could make a life for herself. In those days, it was very limiting for women what they could do. They were just not allowed to do anything other than a number of secretaries, for example, and school teachers. I remember at PS 112 in Queens, there was one man, Mr. Schwartzberg, teaching third grade, but everybody else, every teacher in the school was a woman. And my mom really felt fulfilled doing all of that. I miss her every day.
Was she a good mom?
Sure, she was. Yeah, she had a terrible, terrible childhood. She lost her father when she was like a little girl. The family, she and her two siblings, she's the oldest of three, and mom, my grandma, came to New York from Russia. They were taken in by their their late father's brother, their uncle, but he didn't have enough room for them. So my mother and her brother stayed with this family, and the baby, my aunt and my Antala Hana, she and Granny moved into, she and Bubba moved into another house where my grandmother kept house. So my mother was not only lost a father, but lost her,
Yes.
her mother in a sense, came to a country that where she didn't speak the language, and really dealt with terrible adversity. And yet her children, one is a movie star, the other is an author and an educator. Somehow my position at UCLA, as I say, I never sought that. I was invited to join the faculty. I thought I was going to be teaching a course here or there. I didn't think I was going to be a tenured full professor. If you're going to spend a life somewhere, let it be on a university campus,
Yes.
especially one like the University of California. Here we have a branch right here in Los Angeles in the Westwood section of town. I mean, it's just too good to be true. And I do worry about how the scene has changed in the 6 or 8 or 9 years since I have retired from the faculty. I think it's a difficult time for universities. I met the president of Binghamton University, where I went to school, met my wife, Harper College, upstate New York. And I said to him, "You seem like a pretty smart guy. How could you be a university president? At this time, that's a job I would not want."
Yes. Yeah, no doubt about it. There's anti-Semitism is rife in the world. There was a story that I just read this morning in the local newspaper about an international model who lives here in Toronto, and she's Jewish. And she was asked by her Uber driver to leave the car after the subject of Jewishness came up.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to get an interview with her. And of course, her lawyer's been in touch with Uber, insisting that this person gets fired. But when we speak about anti-Semitism, the universities today seem to be very much in sync with the idea that anti-Semitism is growing so dramatically. In all your years at UCLA, did you encounter anti-Semitism?
I did, not terribly much, but somewhat. I saw graffiti, and I heard remarks. A lot of people think that Jews are all dark. And I am, when I was young, my hair was not piss yellow, gray, but blonde. And I'm married to a Jewish woman who has blonde hair and blue eyes. My children look that way too. And people would assume we're not Jews. And I would occasionally hear something about what the Jews are like and so on. And when in Deadpan, I'm not really trying to say anything. I'm actually just trying to tell a good story. I think the quality of a good story is that when you look back, you see what it's all about. And when I look back at Deadpan, I see what it's all about is that Hitler is not the problem. There's always loony crazies like Hitler in the world. The problem with a Hitler is tens of millions, scores of millions of educated, sophisticated, cultured, literate people embrace that, or at least go along with it. And I think that's the real evil. And I look back at my own life and I see the things that I've gone along with. And what I'm going along with right now, I can't believe some of the horror that I see on the newspapers every morning. I still get the print New York Times every day and the LA Times. And I read these grotesque things that are happening. And then what do? I just go about my life, and so does everybody I know. When I look at some of the things I've done over my life and gone along, if I could do it all over again, I'd probably do it all over again.
Why don't you move on it today then?
Watch your own bigotry, your own sensibility.
Why don't you move on it today? You have the time, don't you?
Well, no, actually, I could make the time. I'm just not that generous. I'm not that courageous. I thought, for example, I'm not a political activist, but I am one of those many, many people who thought that the Vietnam War, was a horrific mistake. And uh, but what did I do? How did I handle that? I mean, I knew men who refused to go and threat, risked imprisonment. I exploited my advantage, my race, my privilege as a family that had some money, and went to college and had that kind of a deferment. And as I say, if I could do it all over again, I would do it all over again. I'm not brave enough to go to prison. I'm too selfish to often to live up to my morals and to my principles. I don't think I'm alone in this regard. I think even the finest, even Mother Teresa, couldn't she have done more? Did she ever take off some time? Why did she do that? There's no end to it, and I think that's why Christians and Jews share this notion that we're all basically wretched sinners. Only the universe and God is perfect. What makes us perfect is our imperfections. We are perfectly imperfect, and that is the nature of humankind.
By the way, has anyone ever told you that you sort of have a rabbinical inflection in your voice?
What kind of an inflection?
A rabbinical one. As a rabbi, I had a rabbi, Rich. I had an uncle, Uncle Beryl Rosensweig in Queens. He passed away a couple of years ago, and when he would speak, his inflection would be, "Thank you so much for coming today. It is delightful to have you." And he would really enunciate. You do that too.
Well, wow! I that sounds like a compliment.
It is. It is.
I mean, I've lectured. It's funny. There's a book called "The 10 Most Feared Things," no, it's the 10 most this, the 10 most that. The single most feared enterprise. They asked hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, what do you find most frightening?
Yeah.
And number one was addressing a group, giving a public speech.
Public speaking.
And I've been doing that. I will say I've never ever once walked out onto a rostrum, at a stage, walked up to a podium to speak to a group without being nervous and without being afraid of it. I do think it's important to speak clearly. It's amazing to me how that's become a thing of the past. I think our attentions are all scattered now by all the media, and what I've been trying to do is focus. That's what I'm trying to do. I said earlier you shouldn't focus, and now I'm saying you should focus, and I like that. I like that. I break my own rules. That's what the rules are for. They are. The only rule that really exists is break all the rules, including this rule.
You're a very interesting fellow.
Thank you.
You are, because you, on one hand, you exude confidence. You really do. You express what's on your mind and you articulate it extremely well. But the flip side to that is that you understand that humankind, in order to have that confidence, if you will, needs to be a tad broken, and that brokenness is the thing that pushes them forward. And you really represent that sort of duplicity almost.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do.
I looked at a comment made about your book Deadpan, and it really grabbed me. It was by James Morrow, the author of The Last Witchfinder, and he said, listen to this, it's very beautiful. They say that satire is what closes on Saturday night. You've heard that before?
I have.
It's a great saying, great saying. If Richard Walter's Deadpan was adapted for the stage in a production that faithfully preserved its sardonic edge, serial comic sensibility, metaphysical hijinks, it's a great writer, and madly inventive plot twist, it would run till the end of the century. What do you think he meant by that?
That's the beautiful. Anybody saying that, well, I'd be really, really flattered about that. James Morrow, an artist like him, says it is especially meaningful. It's funny, as you pointed out, I started. You mentioned Kafka's name. If I was still on campus, I would say Deadpan is an homage to Kafka. But
Yes.
since I'm retired now, 7, 8, 9 years from the campus, I'll say I stole it from Kafka. A man wakes up in the Metamorphosis, Kafka's story, as a beetle or a bug or an insect, a cockroach, depending on the translation. And I thought, what could somebody wake up as, besides that? What about a fern? That doesn't sound too promising. How about a zebra? Well, then I thought comedian, a stand-up. Imagine you suddenly discover you're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And since so many stand-ups are Jews, I decided to make the guy a Jew, and that made me make the man who becomes the Jew an anti-Semite, and not an arsonist, not a murderer, not a rapist. Just a kind of everyday sort of vaguely anti-Semitic person, which I think is the real problem. It's not the super spectacular bombings and stuff like that, as dreadful as they are. It's everybody's going along with it, that he is challenged, he's confronted in a way that prevents him from doing that. And it's funny too, because at the end, he gets involved desecrating a synagogue. They don't burn it to the ground, they don't harm anybody, but they do this anti-Semitic act, and it's not really his doing, his planning. His friends kind of got him into it, but he went along with it. He did. And at the end, he's on trial, and the friends all lie. They claim that he did it, that he brought them into it, and the reader knows it's the other way around. And yet our guy testifies it's true. He perjures himself and says, it's true. It wasn't there, and it was all mine. And so in a way, he's become a Jew. What Jew has he become? He's become the most powerful Jew who ever lived. Who's that? Jesus, right? Christians tell us Jesus came here to take upon himself our sins, and that's what Dwight Bridges, Richie, does in Deadpan.
You wrote this in the early 1970s, and effectively it sat in your drawer for 50 years. I'm just curious what that was like for you as a writer to see that drawer, right? Whether you moved or not from one place to another, and you knew what was inside of that. Was it like tucking away your baby?
It was not the only baby tucked away in there. Writers, we are entrepreneurs. We're independent business people, but every business has inventory, something they call it, and we can create our own inventory. The fact is, my favorite statement about Hollywood is from Dorothy Parker. She says, Hollywood is the one place on earth where you could die of encouragement. I had so much encouragement over Deadpan. It is a fantastic opening. You got to get curious about what happens after all of this. And over the years, it would get resurrected here and there. And then I didn't hear anything about it for decades. But during the pandemic, I got a call from somebody who'd read it 30 or 40 years ago to ask me whatever became of it. And it made me curious to take another look at it. If somebody is remembering it, all those years later. And I really did rework it over the lockdown, during the COVID days. And then I discovered that nobody is interested in that a plague has descended over publishing, and people are afraid to take on controversial subjects. And Deadpan is about the most controversial subject of the day: racial and religious identity, and all of the questions that are attached to that. It was amazing to me that even my own representatives who sold my last novel, my previous novel was a Los Angeles Times bestseller. It made it earned out its advance in its first printing. It went to multiple printings in cloth and in trade paper, and my own agents wouldn't even respond to a query about it. On my own, I started submitting it here and there, and I must have had, out of 50 submissions, I think I only got 3 responses, even, all of them polite turn downs. It's not like I was trying to make my rent. I am liberated from needing the the money that might come in from the book. I don't mind if it comes in, but it won't change my life in any particular way. But I did notice in the papers this article about Heresy Press, which was founded by Bernard Schweitzer, who is the director and fortunately for me, my editor. He's a really good editor. I am uniquely well positioned to know how important good editing is and what good editing is. And Bernard is brilliant. And he was looking to publish stuff that was controversial that other companies didn't want to take on. You know that I actually had one firm, I'm not going to name who they are, a PR firm, that I had advanced out of my own pocket a substantial fee, in the low to medium 5 figures, to get reviews and publicize them. And after a couple of weeks, they actually sent me back the money. They refunded the money and said that on closer inspection, they don't think that they're the right fit for it, was how they put it. And I think what they mean is there's a character in here who speaks anti-Semitic dialogue, who says hateful things. I mean, it's the protagonist is an anti-Semite. We don't want to have anything to do with this. Even if you look at the great protagonists in literature and in drama and in film, they're dreadful people. Oedipus kills his own father, and we all know what he does to his mother. Medea murders her own children in a jealous rage against her faithless husband. Macbeth kills his own king. A guest in his house, there's no noble purpose in it. He wants to be the king. Richard III kills his nephews whom he doesn't suspect of any crime at all. He imprisons them in the Tower of London and then executes them because they're in his way. Hamlet ends with 9 corpses on stage. We've counted them up in class. Some have been run through on swords and some have been poisoned. Nobody wants to see the village of the happy, nice people. We want to see flawed and dreadful characters, and we want to feel a connection to them. I'm wearing my Sopranos hat.
Yes.
I'm one of the people who believes that Sopranos is like among the great achievements of Western civilization. Who is more different from me than Tony Soprano? I'm a Jew from Queens, an intellectual, a college professor, a writer, highly educated. He's in Jersey, Catholic mob boss. And yet when I look at Tony, when I listen to him, I see myself. I see a guy who has disagreements with his wife, battles with his adolescent children. It's about the connections that we make to people who are not like us, and we realize that people who are not like us really are like us. That's the problem today. We focus on groups that we belong to, the tribes that we belong to, and we don't want to have anything to do with anybody who's different from us. And that, I think, is really, really unfortunate. It robs us of richness, of the beauty of humankind, and it's also dangerous. There are only 2 species. There are like 500 species of mammals, but only 2 form groups within the species that make war on other groups within the same species. That's chimpanzees and human beings. Chimpanzees and humans share 98% of the same DNA. So our biggest danger really is being killed by after like starvation and 300,000 years of human history. starvation and disease could do you in, but the big thing was getting killed by some other members of some other group and them taking your territory. And the defense we have against that is to be part of another group. And so I see lots of people embracing, unaware of their own markers. I see progressives have given away the flag, for example, the American flag. Isn't it possible to love your country and be appalled by various policies that it has? Isn't everything a mixed bag?
You know, Richard, I have oh, by the way, I've interviewed Big Pussy from The Sopranos. He's from Queens or New Jersey. I don't remember, but he's a very down to earth fellow, even as in real life. He's very accessible as a person, a lovely person.
And a great actor.
Great actor. Yeah, they killed him off too quickly. You know, I have a writers club and I have novelists, accomplished novelists in the writers club. And they all bemoan the fact that writing about Judaism, which many of them do, their characters are Jewish, the context is Jewish, that it's extraordinarily hard to find an agent, to find a publisher, somebody who really wants to take it on and to publish it. And then you have characters within your book, Dwight Bridges, Richie. Interesting name you chose, by the way. You know what I mean? They're anti-Semitic, and yet your publisher or your agent, the publicist, didn't want to touch that either. So I guess the question really is what is it about our people that people just want to stay away from, or why are we so hated?
If I knew the answer, I wouldn't hold out on you. I only know that the thing that writers have going for them is story. It's all about story. Sometimes people say to me, well, what about character? They'll ask me, what's important? What's more important to you, character or story? Mm-hmm. And I'll say to them, I'm going to answer you with a question. What's more important to you, your heart or your lungs? There's no such thing as a story without characters. There's no such thing as characters who exist outside of a story. Tell a good story, and there's strength. Just like in music, if you can get a good melody, a good lick, a good riff, people will respond to that, and there is power in that. And again, I had read about, notwithstanding all of this, the beautiful thing about being a writer is that it doesn't matter how many people turn you down. You just need one person to take you on, and then you have to realize what their job, the publisher's job, is to publish it. Your job really begins after you've written the book. You have to promote it and be a warrior for it. Nobody's really going to do that for you. You can hire a team of people, as I have, to help you with it, but it's still up to you to be a warrior for that work, the work that you did, and to not outsmart yourself, to write what you care about. Sometimes I'll hear writers talk about what's popular now, what are they doing? Don't you have stuff that you care about, that you want to write about? And whatever is popular now was in the tubes a couple of years ago. It's too late to get in on a trend because it's a trend. I'll tell you a quick story about a writer, a student in my class, 40-something years ago probably. It was actually 1983 because the hot picture was Beverly Hills Cop. And everybody, and I liked that movie. I thought it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
And all the, in my class at UCLA, everybody would write a screen. I'd have 8 writers around the table, and everybody's writing a feature-length screenplay. And what everybody was looking for at that moment in Hollywood, at the first class, we just talk around, we go around the table, and everybody presents their notion. And I said, what everybody's looking for now, the smartest thing you could write right now is a cop action melodrama, a buddy action, cop melodrama, like Beverly Hills Cop. And that's what all the agents are looking for. That's what the studios are looking for. Therefore, don't do it. It'll be one of 600 such projects out there. Don't be smart, be stupid. I said, nobody's doing Westerns. Write a Western. So one of the students did. He wrote a Western. It was a comedy Western.
Yes.
And I sent it to my old roommate, Andy Bergman from college. He was the originator of Blazing Saddles. He has story by credit, and he also shares with Mel Brooks and Mel Brooks and Richie Pryor and two other writers the screenplay credit. I sent it to him. He'd become a producer. They optioned it for very little money. And showed it around Hollywood, and nobody bought it, and so the rights returned to the writer. So that's not as bad as a Malignant Biopsy all by itself, but it's not all by itself. During that period, this guy got really well known. He was shown around Hollywood under the best of circumstances, not by himself. They wouldn't have read him. Not by his agents. He didn't have an agent, but even if he had an agent, it's not as good as being shown around by producers with a track record of making hit movies, want to make your movie. So he was read by everybody and not by underlings. There's nothing wrong with being read by underlings, but more better be read by the heads of the studios. And that one particular studio, Fox, they said, we love this writer, great voice. We don't want to make this movie. But we have another thing that we think we've not been able to get an A-list Hollywood writer to get a handle on. We want to give this guy a shot at it. It led to representation and a substantial career that continues to this day, scores of years later. And the lesson there again is again, I know I can just hear my friends from Long Island City saying, "Hey, Richie, you're baking your brains out there by California too long if you talk this way, but you gotta follow your own heart, write what you care about. All that matters is making people feel something." Yes. I actually was invited to, among the most exciting speaking gigs I ever had was at an evangelical Christian conference close to 20 years ago. 500 pastors gathered in Chicago for the weekend. Why was I invited? Because the subject was narrative in Scripture. You look at what we call Torah, what Christians call the Old Testament, Muslims call it the Hebrew Bible. Everybody holds it sacred. It's mainly stories. The Christian follow-up, the New Testament, mainly stories. The Muslim follow-up, the Quran, mainly stories. There's advice, there's suggestions, there's reportage, but mainly stories. And are they comforting, reassuring stories? They are not. They're bloodshed and horror. I was just rereading Genesis. There's a graphic Genesis done by Art Crumb. It's not jokey. It's more than referential. It's like extremely respectful of Scripture. And I was rereading right there in the first book of the Bible, the story of Lot. Yes. An old man whose daughters get him drunk so they can have sex with him and have a child, and incestuous child. This isn't from the National Enquirer. This is from Holy Scripture. So you don't have, I was telling the preachers, if you want people to stay in the church Sunday morning, even after they leave the church, what I mean is that for the rest of the day, if your sermon was any good, you should be hefting it, thinking about it. And if it was really good, what about through the week? As a matter of fact, you don't, to achieve that, you don't need to make the people feel good. You just have to make them feel
something.
If you scare them half to death, if you imagine you're walking past a movie theater and the doors open and everybody's coming out, it's just ended and they're all sobbing and weeping. Yeah. Logically, you might say to yourself, oh boy, they're all unhappy. They must just, this must be some really sad movie. I don't want to see that. Oh, please. You would immediately get in line to see that movie for the opportunity to feel real passion in a safe place where it's a simulator and you can't really get hurt. You can live out, you can experiment, you can get experience with your darker feelings. So when you meet up with it later in life, and everybody, no matter how successful, no matter how wealthy, everybody has loss and grief and and heartache, disappointment, frustration in their lives, you you can deal with it more effectively because you've felt it before and you got through it. You'll get through it now. So these things are not just throwaways, add-ons. They really are biological, I believe. A model of a story, a really well-shaped story. It's a short beginning, a big middle, and a very quick end. What does that look like? A human life, right? Childhood, and then the big part of it, and then you raise your hand high if you would like at the end of your life to be on resuscitators and catheters and the IVs, and so the ideal life, the end of life there is very very quick. So I think every story is really an image of the person who created that story. I used to think in the movie theater we're looking through this window into other people's lives, but it's not really a window. It's made out of glass. It's a mirror. Instead, we're looking at images of our own lives, I think, and having an opportunity to practice for what's to come. And if we don't get that, we're going to get distended and misshapen and warped in our spirit, our culture, in the same way that the body becomes misshapen from inadequate nourishment.
Richard, I have to add what I said about your speaking before. Your hand gesticulations are very rabbinical in nature too. In the yeshiva world, they do a lot of this, right? And
Uh-huh.
and you have a lot of important things to say. It's almost like sermonizing. Do you feel any sense of the rabbi inside of you?
Yes, I always refer to whenever I talk about what I tell students and the things I believe in, I always use the word preach. I'm preaching to students.
Yeah, yeah.
I am trying to persuade them, but not by simply saying it, but getting them to try it out and see. You can't really shortcut it. You have to live these things. I used to believe that a screenplay, let's say, or a novel, it's here it is, and you're going to put stuff into it, characters and events, things that they say, things that they do, and then I realized no. I went to stage 2 of 3 stages. Stage 2, I realized it's about taking stuff away and finding stuff that's already there. I never worked with a writer who wasn't surprised by something that a character said, by an event that seemed to take place out of nowhere without any planning. So it's but then I came to, so it's not about putting stuff out, it's about taking away. Now I've come to stage 3. It's still about taking away, but it's not about finding things that are there, though things are there. What you have to do is get out of your own way and let things find you. Get into the stream, be available. And again, stay open to the surprises. Don't shut yourself off. Most of the people that my own experience and the experience of people I know is that it's the distractions in their lives that paid off. And when I say paid off, I mean brought to them fulfillment, creativity, the things that we hope for in a professional life.
Richard, a few closing questions. Do you remember the book Black Like Me?
Yes, I do.
Remember that? It was about a fellow who was able to change the tone or the color of his skin and actually experience what it was like to be a black man. In this book, Deadpan, which is a phenomenally written book, by the way, I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're a fine writer. You wanted the character to be able to experience what it was like to be a Jew, right? And to me, that's fascinating because when you go out into society, I have many, many non-Jewish friends, thank God. And I often ask them, well, what do you think it's like to be a Jew, in particular in this day and age? And the response is kind of doe-eyed. They look at me and they don't know. And I get that because I don't know what it's like to be a Sudanese person today in Sudan. What is it like to be a Jew?
Wow, what a great question.
Thank you.
It's funny. The sometimes I think people are just jealous of us. You know,
Yeah.
we have a total stranglehold, not on the economy, but on 20th century violin virtuosity. You had to be a Jew to be a really great violinist. It is kind of freaky how successful Jews are. You know, there's like 350, there's 3.5 billion Christians and about 1.5 billion Muslims, and like 168 Jews. I know most of them personally. You know,
Right.
how do we rank so high in achievement and in consciousness and success and so on? And the answer is I don't know, but I do think that people need that Jews need to recognize that that's what we are, not trying to pass um, and just stay open to not try to persuade anybody. You know, regarding the Middle East and everything that's going on now, I will ask people, if you do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And I can't tell you how many people say, hesitate. They're not really that sure. And I will tell them that I disagree. I am absolutely sure that Israel has a right to exist. What I have for them, I'm not going to try to persuade them to that point of view. I just have a question for them. And here it is. Imagine a battle between two adversaries, one of which does not believe the other even has a right merely to exist. Do you think that will provoke conciliation and collaboration and cooperation? I don't, I don't think so. I would not want to despair. I don't want people to despair, but there are things happening that none of us, I think, really expected could happen. And we who love civil liberties have an expression: night does not fall all at once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. I'm wondering, when you would get together with writers, actors, producers who were Jewish, would that come out? Would you start saying Shema Yisrael together at some point?
No, we're not that. We're just not that observant.
No, I don't mean from a religious perspective, but does the Jewishness exude from? Does it come out from your colleagues?
Well, I worry about people who don't want to associate with people who are not just like them.
Yes.
It's funny. I was just reading this big piece in Moment about the Christian nationalism, and I would ask a Christian nationalist, somebody who wanted, well, there was a guy years ago in the Senate who proposed a law in which the United States Congress would recognize Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior. Now, never mind how little this guy knows about the Constitution or understands, American law and the way democracy works. But imagine having so little faith in Jesus Christ that you think that he requires the endorsement of petty, wretched sinners who've temporarily been elected to office. Yes. You can't force faith. You can't force love. There's a Bonnie Raitt song. You can't make you love somebody who you don't. Mm-hmm. So it really does trouble me. I can't. What I like to do over the years, and it's been very useful in a university, is imagine the idealized, romanticized response that you want from your adversary and articulate that and say it to yourself. And you realize it usually goes something like this. I thought about what we were talking about, and you were right. I was wrong. I had it wrong. You were right. Thanks for straightening me out. You've never heard that in your life. Oh, no. You're never gonna hear that. It's funny. There's a comedian, Rick Reynolds, who talks about a man. Here's the really important clue. This is profound. I think it's more important to understand than to be understood. If you can get your adversary, if you can describe his point of view in such a way that he says, yes, that's exactly right, that's exactly how I feel, you've won that battle. And Reynolds talks about a man and a wife. Imagine a man and a wife, and the man, and they're having a disagreement, and the man is saying to his wife, so you're upset that I only have one job around the house, and it is to put the garbage tins on the bins on the on the curb on Thursdays, and I don't even do that. And not only does the street stink, and it's a shanda in front of all of the our neighbors, but it's disrespectful to me. We made this agreement, and the wife is likely to say, "That is exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, you've won that. You don't have to put the garbage out." A few months later, she goes, "Yeah, and you can have the same discussion and just add." And on top of that, we even discussed this a few months ago, and I promised I would, and I haven't done it. Again, we want to be understood. We had a crime in the violence in the workplace meeting once, a training session at UCLA. And I remember the chief of the UCLA police, this wonderful black guy, the best public speaker I've ever heard, was saying that when they have a recalcitrant problem person, they look at him and they nod and they keep saying over and over again, "I understand. I understand. Now will you step over here and then step onto the curb?" And
Yes.
they just want to be understood. And that's what you should stop trying to explain yourself. What I mean by that is this is as if they might say, "Oh, now I get it." It just doesn't work like that. Stop trying to be understood and trying to understand everybody else, and you will achieve power and you'll achieve serenity and peace.
Richard, in conclusion, I have something I would like to read to you. Over the last few months, I've been using AI generally at the end of my shows, asking it to produce a poem or some piece of prose about my guest. So I have a piece about you. But before I do that, I just want to tell you that you're a very erudite man.
Well, thank you.
No, you have a lot of important things to say, and you articulate them in such a funny, serious way. And when you spoke before about, I don't have the courage to go out there and stand in the way of anti-Semitism, I get that. I'm not much different than that. I just wanted to tell you, and I don't mean to sound obsequious or anything, but I think that you have a ton to share. I do.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
you
do. And you're so interesting,
Bless your heart. I'm only going to let you go on like this for an hour and a half.
You're great. Like, I enjoyed this interview so much. You notice I stay quiet most of the time. But that's because I really wanted to hear you. And I get, I'm tired of myself, of course, so, but I really want to thank you for this. You did a wonderful job. You really did.
Thank you. I appreciate your kind words, and I'm grateful for the attention and consideration. Thank you so much.
Oh, I can't wait for your next book. So it goes like this, or your course or podcast or something. 50 years back, yay, half a century, Richard Walter wrote a story that shouldn't have worked, but absolutely did. Picture this, a West Virginia Buick dealer, a guy with a little rust in his soul, a little prejudice tucked under the hood, wakes up one morning as Richie, the world's most famous Jewish comedian. Boom, identity swap, cosmic joke, a punchline with teeth. The book, funny, fierce, alive, a carnival right through satire and truth. But the world wasn't ready. Publishers shut their doors. Agents ghosted him before ghosting had a name. So the book slept, deep, silent. Forgotten on the outside, glowing on the inside. Then came the pandemic, streets empty, clocks melting, the world in slow motion. And out of nowhere, a voice asked, "Hey, whatever happened to that book that you wrote?" And something in Walter wakes up to. He digs it out, dusts it off, reads it with older eyes, rewrites it with younger fire, and still silence, rejection. Too Jewish, too sharp, too honest for this new, careful, very comfortable world. But Walter, he's old school brave, man. He's brave. He taught for 40 years that writing isn't meant to tuck you in. It's meant to shake you awake, rattle you, ruin your comfort, make you feel something dangerously real. Then Heresy Press, a spark in the dark. He sends the book in. 2 days later, yes, just like that. After half a lifetime, after all the no's, after all the doors that stayed shut, Deadpan rises. A story set in the 70s, still burning in 2025 because history repeats and hate has a very, very long memory. A story of identity, awkward and aching and honest. A story of waking up, literally, as someone the world says is the other. Because sometimes the truth puts on a clown nose to speak past our defenses. Sometimes a joke is the only way to tell the truth we don't want to hear. And sometimes, after 50 years, a story steps back into the light exactly when we need it most.
Wow. That's from AI.
Yeah.
A plus from the professor for the AI.
Yeah, honestly, eh?
Yeah, no, I think I have to tell you, AI, there's no stopping AI.
No.
I think that it's a really, really useful tool. It's like autocorrect on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's right. Do you use AI?
I'm sorry.
Do you use AI?
No, I don't. For 40 years, I was a professor at a department that has digital media in the title, Department of Film, Television, Digital Media, and I can't even turn on the TV. You know how I turn on the TV? I say, honey, would you turn on Netflix? It used to be, Channel 7 or something.
Yeah, those are the days.
I'm good at making up stories, but I don't know how all of that stuff works. But I am not afraid of AI the way everybody seems to think. So many people seem to think. I saw somebody in the anti-university atmosphere we've been living in. They were talking about that this particular school is not going to treat people in history. They're going to give them useful training. And they showed this one guy, a black kid, was being taught how to drive a truck. Truck driving has no future. Driving 10 years from now, they won't be driving trucks. They'll be all driving on their own. Is that going to be dangerous? It's going to be much less dangerous than it is now. It'll be faster. You can't with the automobile, the internal combustion engine put blacksmiths out of business. And I'm hearing that about writing. I don't think that's going to happen, but there's so much, especially if you're an academic like I was, from time to time you have to write a review of your program, a review of a colleague who's come up for promotion or something like that. AI can certainly write a first draft of that you could brush up. Myself, when I did that, I was almost, even before there was AI, I was using it to the extent that I would look at the last such report I wrote, copy and paste it into a fresh document, and then edit it, change the names and tweak it here and there. What is wrong with that?
Right.
People are not going to keep writers just around because they feel sorry for them and they have to feed their families.
Agreed. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for listening and for watching. I enjoyed this interview immensely, and I'm certain that you will as well, or did. I do want to add, and I always do this at the end of the show, that the reason why I do this podcast is to pay homage to humankind through inspirational interviews. And I often say that, there's this big, ugly cloud hanging over so many of us in the world today, but we need to remember the beauty that exists on Earth, and we are all stewarding this Earth of ours on this date. This is our clock right now. And what can you take out of this interview with Richard Walter? I would say that here's a man who is incredibly happy with what he has done in life, despite the fact that he has this uncertainty about him. And I think that's a good thing. And obviously he does too. It's his philosophy.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Be excited about life. Find that thing that puts you in the zone, that makes you want to roll out of bed every day and say, yeah, man, this is it. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I love being an accountant, man. I love it. This is what I want to do. When you find that thing that you're passionate about, you will find happiness and joy comes with it. Richard, would you agree with that?
I do. I absolutely agree with it 100%. I just would say, don't overplan that thing, and don't try to find it. Let it find you. Be out there and let stuff come past you. And when something bumps into you that you love, grab it, hold on to it, and make it your own.
Find the book Deadpan. You can find it on Amazon and all other major outlets. It's a really, really nice read. You'll enjoy it very much. Thank you so much once again to Richard for being my guest. I look forward to, if you want, I'd love to stay in touch with you.
Please do.
That would be very nice. We'll go to that Reform synagogue that doesn't even have Yom Kippur services. But until then, like my mother used to say, sei gesund, be healthy, and really, really latch onto something that makes you happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.